Tell me about that guy uh, in 2009 that was on top of the world snowboarding. You had just beaten Shaun White on the road to the Olympics. Tell me about that guy at the top of the world.
Yeah, so I've obviously been thinking a lot about this, and I was like, how am I going to start this? I need something impactful. I need something, powerful that these people are going to want to listen to me, and maybe they'll get off their phones and be like, all right, let's hear what this kid's got to say. So I was like, all right, I got this. Perfect. It came to me, and I was like, here it is. I was like, very, very few people in this world know what it's like to be at the very top of something, and that's where I was. I mean, I made it to the top. I'd beaten Shaun White, like you said. I was one of the best snowboarders in the world, and then I was like, yes, that's perfect. I nailed it. That's what I'm going to give it to him. And then I last night I did that dinner with you guys, and then I heard everyone today, and it's like the most amazing group of people, and I was like, wow, well, perfect. These people are all at the top of what they do and the best at what they do. So now I not really gonna work for me. So I was like, gotta think of something new. And then it came to me. I was like, I made it to the top. And you guys in this room all understand what it takes to get to the top of something. But I think what you guys don't really exactly, haven't all experienced is, what it's like to go from there and then get to the very bottom in the blink of an eye. And, that's what I felt. That's what happened to me.
You were basically tuning up for the 2010 Olympics. It was being hyped up, this amazing battle between you and Shaun. You were the first person to really show that he actually had an armor that could be penetrated. And the whole snowboarding world was like, yes, Kevin, finally someone can take the crown from the Flying Tomato. And then, like you said, in the blink of an eye, everything changes. I want to know two things. One, what was your last memory of snowboarding before the injury?
Yeah, it's crazy because there's so much lost there that I just don't remember, and that the last memory was the day before, and the next memory was when I got back on my snowboard 2 years later.
That's the span of memories in 2 years.
Yep, of snowboarding.
That's crazy. When that injury happened and you got hurt, it reverberated throughout the entire snowboard community at first. And I was hosting the X Games right after you got hurt, and everyone had stickers on their snowboards. Every competitor, every guy that this guy had beat or competed against, every athlete from every different sport, everyone had a sticker on their helmet or on their boards that said, "I ride for Kevin." And there was this uncertainty as to what was going to happen to you, because a lot of people wondered, is he even going to make it? But then you start to pull through, and you go through this amazing transformation. Your first memory, you said, is getting back on your snowboard. Do you remember, is there anything that at all that sort of leads up to that?
Yeah, well, the very first memory was a month and a half after I got flown to the University of Utah, where I spent 27 days in critical care and then 2 weeks in acute care. And when they flew me from there to the rehab hospital, a month and a half later, I was in the airplane, and I was like, "Oh," they're like, "We're gonna fly you," and I was like, "Yes, I'm gonna get in a nice jet, and they're gonna take me over to this rehab hospital." And it ended up being this loud ass propeller plane, and I just remember this loud plane. I was like, "What am I doing in here?" And it was just like such an awful experience. So I think that's why I remember it.
The crash reel, obviously, big movie, HBO, get nominated for an Oscar. Let me just give you a little something to that. There's nothing wrong with being nominated for an Oscar. How did the movie come about? How did you end up with Lucy Walker? And how did this story go from something that was just a story from within snowboarding and action sports to the world?
Yeah, that was incredible that this film, and it's incredible that you guys all got a copy of it, because it was so amazing to meet Lucy and have this done, because then I had the ability to share this with the world, whereas I would hope that nobody in this room would know what I look like. You want to go to that next slide? What I look like that I look like that and that happened to me. And then, having this story being able to be shared has been, so powerful, and there's so much to it. And, having this family and having this support and having this love that, has gotten me here has just been the most amazing thing ever.
How important was it for you to have the type of family that you did? Your family from snowboarding, but then the real power of your immediate family in this process to really heal and get to the place that you are now.
Yeah, they're the reason that I'm here, and I'm sitting in this chair and doing as well as I am is because the amount of love and the amount of help, and it all starts with my mom. This is the
All right, this is you recovering right here.
yeah, you want to go to that next one?
Yeah, sure.
That is this is my first day back, and I got back on my board because my mom and dad were like, Kevin, we're not going to come to the hospital if you don't have a helmet on. And I listened to my parents, and I was damn lucky that day I listened to them, because they said I wouldn't have made it without a helmet on. And it all started there, and then them spending the entire time in the hospital, in the rehab hospital, and just, I mean, that's what's shown best about this movie is what they did for me.
One of the biggest arguments in that movie was when you sit there at dinner and you say to your family, after everything they've been through with you in the hospital, hey guys, I want to snowboard again. I'm going to snowboard again. And then all hell breaks loose.
They just wanted to kill me, especially my brother Dave, who has Down syndrome. He's like, you cannot do double corks. You cannot do that.
I guess the question for everyone is why? What is it about snowboarding? What connects you to snowboarding in a way that you felt that you'd be willing to put it all at risk again? Now with all the serious issues that you came away from your injury, why still snowboard?
Yeah, I feel like a lot of this room understands that feeling you get when you get really good at something, and you are really, really good. And that's where I was at snowboarding, and it did something special for me that it's hard to explain that feeling you get when you get to that level. But I was there, and it's just like I had that freedom, and I had it, and it was like, I don't know, it's hard to explain, but and then I lost it, and I wanted it back.
And what was this day like?
That was special to get back to it, and it was in a much different way now that I snowboard, but having the ability to actually get back and do that again, and to feel that and to feel that freedom has been amazing.
I'm sitting here with you. I've known you for almost 10 years now, and I'm having a back and forth conversation where anyone can see that it's a miracle that you came back from the type of injury that you sustained. But what are the challenges that you have to face every day that you deal with that we don't see in your everyday life, that remind you every day when you wake up that you've suffered a brain injury that will affect the rest of your life?
Yeah, that's a hard one, and that's the hardest part about this is because it's, so invisible and you can't tell, and yet every single day, without a question, no, I don't even have to think about it. For 4.5 years, I have been reminded of what happened to me on December 31st. Is there something that happens every single day that comes up, and it can always be different, and I'm starting to find ways to not get rid of it, because it's never going to go away, because my brain's always going to be injured, but finding ways to heal it and to continue to get it better, and to take the positives out of this instead of feeling bad for myself.
So what are some of the things that you have to do just to keep things every day, like with your memory and what have you?
Yeah, they're interesting things like, exercise, getting out there and going for runs, and a big one's been yoga for me, and getting in that yoga room, got up this morning and did that yoga class, and just doing these little things that I find so releasing and so healing for me.
Which leads us to that super cool hippie shirt that you're wearing, love your brain, which has really been the lasting message to come out of all this. You have been this big advocate for Love Your Brain. What is Love Your Brain?
Yeah, loving your brain is more than just, what you see when this comes up. Love your brain, and you see it and you're like, all right, love your brain, cool. But it's like, it's it's so important for somebody that injures their brain to love your brain. I mean, I tell you, I'm reminded every day. I do such stupid things, and instead of now I've learned this. Instead of getting down on myself and calling myself an idiot, oh, you're so stupid for knocking that water over. It's like that is so damaging for your brain. It's so bad for you. These negative thoughts, and it's obviously not physically bad, but in there, it's like not allowing these wires to reheal and, reconnect. And it's like learning that has, helped me heal in such a huge way. And then if you haven't injured your brain, maybe if you're like my brother who has Down syndrome, or if you're just a regular person out there, maybe taking life a little bit less seriously. And when you do something stupid, to just kind of, you know, look past that and understand that it's not life ending.
Mm. We had a conversation about a year ago after we went snowboarding together, one of the first times after you've been back. And you said to me, I really want to figure out what to do with my life now, because all I know how to do is to be a professional athlete. I was the best in the world. I need to figure out what to do. But now you've become this very, very powerful voice. Tell me some of the things that you're doing and what Love Your Brain is becoming, as far as your public speaking, et cetera, and what the message is that you're trying to get across.
Yeah, I think one of the most important messages that we can do with this is, get it out to the kids and teach these kids. And I'm guessing I've talked to some of you, not all of you, but I'm guessing that from the look of this room, most of you guys have kids, and
Translation: you're a little bit old.
I don't have a girlfriend yet, so I haven't found any kids. But from what I hear, you guys all love your kids, and all you want is for your kids to be safe. And in order for your kids to be safe, the most important thing they can do is love their brain and take care of their brain. And it's such small things. Put a helmet on when you get on a bike, not texting in the car, not talking to people in the car. These little things that you can teach your kids that is so important.
One of the interesting numbers that we see here is we probably take for granted how often these type of injuries happen to people. We were talking earlier, you mentioned every 23 seconds there's a traumatic brain injury. The numbers here that we see in the ages of 0 to 19, I mean, kids up to 19 years of age, 173,000 cases a year. What are some of the things that you think we can do as a culture to help minimize that? And then we can just speak, specifically in starting with a place like Action Sports.
Yeah, my message here is I don't want people to see this and be like, oh, I shouldn't go snowboard, or I shouldn't go out and do this. It's like, I want people to get out there, and I want you to live, and I want you to have as much fun as possible. But I feel like the real message with this is to be smart and to be safe. And you can get out there and you can do these things, but you can do it in the right way. You can put a helmet on, you can not get on your phone when you're in the car. And there's so many ways that you can do this, and just be smart about it.
Well, I think that you making the choice to decide to become a real voice for this injury, and really giving other people the opportunity. You had this two big families. You had this big family of pro snowboarding, and then your amazing family that were all able to stop what they were doing to help you heal. But there are a lot of kids out there and a lot of people who are having these type of injuries who don't have the same type of a network. Is that what you want to do with Love Your Brain, is to help give those people the same sort of opportunity to heal?
Yeah, that's a huge piece of this is to get out there and, to help these people that, don't have what I have. And when you watch this movie, you'll see that I had everything. I have the most amazing family ever. Little example, my brother's here. He's getting married in 4 days, but he's here with me, helping me do what I can do. And it's just kind of, not everybody has that. And it's, we all know that not everyone has amazing families. I feel like there's a lot of amazing families in this room, and we're very lucky for that. But it's like helping these kids that don't, is very powerful.
Well, this is a room of very powerful people, and if you have not had the chance yet to have a conversation with this amazing human being named Kevin Pearce, then I highly suggest you do so and figure out ways that you can get involved so that we can make this thing like simple brain injury something that can go away. And like you said, you know, just make the simple idea of putting on a helmet something that's cool for kids. Kevin, you are a miracle. I am happy to call you a friend, and thank you for taking the time to share your story today.